Okay. All right, so we start with breath work usually, and bring your hands to the lower abdomen, right below the belly button, about an inch or two below. In Chinese medicine, this is an area called the Sea of Qi. So it is and not just Chinese medicine, different martial arts, different kind of movement-based forms. This is a pretty powerful, energetic space. We have a lot of power here. And in focusing our energy here, we're sort of helping to bring in and funnel energy into the space so that our bodies can then disperse it to where it needs to go whenever that's needed. So we'll start with feeling all four corners of your feet rooted down into the ground. Drop your shoulders down away from your ears. And then starting to pay attention to where you're breathing. If you are breathing more shallowly in the chest, if you're breathing rather quickly, and then we're inviting ourselves to expand the breath, expand the boundaries of the breath. And slowing the breath down is the first, I'll say, step in that. And then really allowing the torso, the belly to expand on the inhale. And then on the exhale, a nice slow release, and the belly pulls in towards the spine. So abdominal breathing really is allowing a full expression of the breath. So the diaphragm is really able to descend down. The lungs can expand. And because the diaphragm is descending, it sort of temporarily slightly displaces your internal organs below. It's like a little massage, and the belly puffs out. And then on the exhale, the diaphragm ascends back up, and everything comes back into, let's say, a resting state. It's a nice slow inhale and nice slow exhale. And then let's open the eyes if they're closed and drop the arms down, and we'll go into knocking on the door of life. So turning another, besides moving with relaxation and moving on the breath, moving from this area, and most of our movements is what we're going to focus on. So moving from the hips and the waist, and then let the arms be nice and loose. And then if you pick up enough momentum in that rotation, then we end up knocking across the lower abdomen and the lower back. And if the space beneath the belly button we call the Sea of Qi, the space sort of, if you drew a line from the belly button to the back here, this is the door of life. So the Sea of Qi in the front and the door of life in the back, these areas that there's a lot of acupressure and acupuncture points that help, we'll say, increase energy. And so we're knocking across these two areas, just opening up the spine, awakening the energy. And then let's travel up below the collarbone. The humidity here is finally broke. It's broken. We woke up this morning and it's like a beautiful, probably one of the best summer days that up here, at least in the morning, that we've had in a while. And it feels so lovely. And then let's come back down to the waist. And then start to unwind. Okay, so we've rotated the spine, oiling the joints of the spine and rotating. Now we'll do spinal cord breathing, and then we'll add in a little rotation here. And so there's gonna be a slight variation. Sure, just listen to my cues and we'll go from there. So let's start with inhaling and bringing the hands up by your head and looking up towards the sky. And then exhale, curl and bring the chin towards your chest on the exhale. So we slowly inhale and look up, and then nice, slow, long exhale as we curl forward. And inhale, opening up by flexing and extending like this. We're opening up both the back of the spine and the front of the spine. So moving with relaxation, moving on the breath, moving slowly. So a lot of these movements, or most of these movements in Qigong, it's about slowing down, creating space, because there's wisdom in slowing down and having the opportunity to first even notice the more subtle energies that are happening in and around us. And then being able to slowly start to adjust where things aren't working as well, and creating a new pattern of existing, whether it's physically, emotionally, changing, maybe the patterns of thinking. So we start where we are, right? And little by little, making these consistent movements helps to facilitate really sustainable change long term. It's not a magic pill, it's about consistency, doing the things, showing up. So give yourself a little pat in the back. Now, on the next inhale, we're going to rotate over to the left. Now, stay here, rotated to the left, and then exhale to the left. So, this is a slight variation of what we normally do. And then, as we inhale, come to the center. And now rotate over to the right as we curl the spine forward. So, we're still doing flexing and extending. Inhale, back to the center, and then exhale. We're just rotating as we start to inhale and open up. We're rotating over to the side, this time to the left and looking up, and then curl over to the left. So it gives a little bit of a different stretch to the spine. And then inhale, back to the center, and exhale. Inhale, rotating over to the right. Exhale to the right. Inhale to the center, excuse me. And then over to the left. And let's do one more time to each side. So now we're over to the right. Excuse me, exhale. Back to the center. And then over to the left. And then let's release the arms down. Okay, so opening the spine, knocking on the door of life, spinal cord breathing. And now we'll do a little bit of cleansing and clearing. So this I like to think about as the stuff that's sort of gummed up that we want to release. This is clearing. So let's just start by taking the arms up overhead. And for this one, you can actually come to the balls of your feet. And then as we exhale, you're going to quickly let your heels drop down as the arms come down towards the floor. So it's a slow inhale up, and then a pretty forceful exhale as you knock the heels down. And this is a good exercise to exhale through the mouth. Think about when life doesn't go as expected, which it rarely does. right? And we might have a visceral response when we have expectations and life does not meet those expectations, right? But instead of getting contracted and frustrated and angry, we can do these little clearing exercises just to release it. Anything that's sort of building up. And we think about exhaling, throwing it to the earth, the best composter. One more. And knocking the heels on the ground just sends a little bit of a vibration up through the bones. Things like that are actually really good for the bones. Having that impact stimulates bone growth. So when we do certain things like knocking the heels in the ground is really beneficial for our bones. And let's go into another clearing exercise. Arms out to the sides. And on the exhale, let the arms just drop down. So inhale, and then now this time as we exhale, you're going to turn. So inhale at the center, and then exhale to the right. And then inhale back to the center, so the arms are up to the sides, and then exhale to the left. So inhale and exhale as we start pumping. So the knees are pumping. We inhale, bend and straighten. Again, exhaling with a little force through the mouth. So here, same thing. We're allowing any frustrated energy when life is not going as we expect, sending any of the energy that's been brewing to the earth, opening up. This is great to open up the space between the shoulder blades and the heart center. Releasing, generating just a little bit of internal heat so things start to circulate. I also like thinking of the clearing exercises almost like using a plunger in the toilet, right? You got to kind of stir things up and kind of get things ungunked, and then you can flush it, right? And let new fresh water come in. Similar premise, maybe not as gross. And then start to slow down. Right? We gotta mobilize things in order to create space by letting go. I just want to make sure I have the right time here. Perfect. Okay. So now let's do a little bit of dragon stretches its tail to continue to open up the space between the shoulders, the head, and the neck. So we'll start. Your hands are going to be over to the left. So your palms are facing you. So we start looking at our hands. Take a nice inhale. And as we exhale, turn the palms so they're facing away from you and extend the right arm over, excuse me, the left arm over to the left. And as you do, you're going to turn your head and look right. And then as we inhale, turn your head back so you're looking at your hands. And the inhale, bring the hands in slightly. And then exhale, push away, and then turn your head. So you're getting a nice stretch through the left forearm into the palms and fingertips. Inhale. So we kind of bring in, take a nice inhale and a slow exhale, stretching the arms. And then when you turn, you're actually stretching all the way up into your neck. And then we start being able to look, like not just over to the right here, but let your vision expand. Vision expand to in back of you, right? You can kind of turn your head just where you get your max and then start to take in the room over here to the right. And then turn and then inhale, pull in. So this is not just opening up the shoulder and opening up the neck, but when we have a stiff neck, right, we don't have the capacity to turn as far right and left. It limits our perception. It limits the field in which we can see, metaphysically too. So if we are opening up the neck, we're training our muscles to be relaxed so that we have more free movement in the neck. And that really translates to being able to take in a wider range, being perceptive, perceive a greater amount of space around us. That's very expansive. One more to this side. And then let's hold one more time, taking in the space over to the right, slightly behind you over to the right. And then exhale the arms down. Right. So if we have limited range of motion, we can't take in as much from our surroundings. So we're opening up the neck, opening up the shoulders. So we have more freedom of movement, and our perception, the field in which we can perceive things, gets wider and wider and wider. Now the hands over to the right. Again, we start looking at our palms, take a nice inhale, and then exhale, pushing now over to the right as you turn the head and look left. And then inhale. Nice and slowly. So as we turn, enjoy the inhale, a nice juicy inhale. We don't get to slow down as much in this day and age. So really relish the inhale and slow exhale, fully expanded, and then inhale. And inhale. Inhale. And now let's stretch the arms over and let's stay over here looking over our left shoulder. Again, and just taking in the room over here to the left, maybe slightly behind you, behind your shoulder. Breathing. And then exhale the arms down. You might notice a little lightness of energy through the shoulders into the neck. And let's do one more stretch for the head, neck, and shoulders before we go into our flows. So let's bring your palms behind you. So the palms are touching and your fingers are facing down. If your shoulders are too tight and this is not accessible to you, try grabbing forearms or even the elbows, maybe even the wrist. If this feels okay, then whatever suits you. And then we're just gonna let the head tilt over to the left. And then we're gonna make very slow, deliberate circles. So let the head roll forward, ear to the shoulder, bring the head up, and then we'll continue at your own pace, making these real gentle circles with your neck. Getting into all the nooks and crannies. This whole sequence, the dragon stretches its tail, these gentle neck rolls, really good for repetitive or habituated movement, such as being on our phones, right? Text neck, as they call it. So helping to stretch the muscles that maybe get a little shortened because our heads tend to be in this flexed state looking down. We're opening up all that space. And maybe you don't have a smartphone. I go through periods of time where I'm like, maybe I should just go back to a dumb phone. And it sounds so intriguing. And then I realize how much of our lives are tied to being able to get either if it's like authentic, so two-part authentication and parking, and it's pretty remarkable. But, and then let's pause and we're going to go in the opposite direction. But we can incorporate practices like this to help keep us mindful, but also to keep these muscles nice and loose. And one more. Let's bring the head upright, drop the arms down, and let's do a little shaking before we go into our flows. So bouncing in the knees creates a little bit of a vibration through the body. Let the upper body be nice and relaxed. And then we start shaking out the wrists, the elbows. Let the head be nice and relaxed. Letting everything go. And let's start to slow down. Okay, so now that we've opened up the body, the spine, we've done some clearing. So our energy should be moving a little more freely, or we're even able to perceive our internal environment and energy a little more freely. So we'll start with pulling up the earth. So these flow movements, again, once if you're new to the flows, once you are seeing a few rounds, and then you're able to really relax into it, like we're going to practice really letting ourselves kind of be in the flow. So we're going to start with the fingers facing towards one another. And then we're going to inhale, the hands come all the way up above your head. So the hands spiral out. So they're facing the universe. And then exhale the hands down the sides, back to the starting position. So we inhale all the way up. And then a slow exhale. So pulling up the earth's energy. So the flows that we'll be going through, starting with pulling up the earth. And then we'll go into piercing the veil, and then a wrist cross, Wei Qi, benefiting flow. They're all about this invisible energy. I mean, really, QiGong is all about the invisible energy. And what that really means is, there's different variations of energy. And as humans, and even like Newtonian physics, it's really about the material world, right? What we can see, what we can feel. And that's how, as humans, I think most of us orient. But as we know, scientifically, we know that around us in the universe is really made up of like 99.9% of that is empty, is space, is invisible, is what we can't see. And if we think about the major invisible energy, right, gravity, is one of them. We don't see gravity. We're constantly moving. We're moving as we're on Earth through this field that's kind of surrounding us. And if we align ourselves, either quite literally, right, we're stacked, our vertebrae are stacked one on top of the other, right? We're aligning ourselves. When we say alignment in anything, in yoga too, we're talking about aligning ourselves with gravity. Like, how do we align so that we're like a Jenga pile stacked one on top of the other so that we're able to kind of draw in and preserve energy? When we're not in alignment, right, we're working against that energy, like a salmon swimming upstream. So we align ourselves with the energy of the earth, but we also have electromagnetism, for the most part, is invisible. And even the energy that's moving you, right? We know the heart beats, the lungs expand, we know about blood flow and circulation, but it's the driving force behind all of that. This animating energy we don't see. We see our hands moving, our brains are connected, sending a signal, but it's an invisible force that is actually producing that movement. So we're tapping into that with these exercises. So, with that being said, let's do one more inhale. We're expanding our perception. Exhale, bring the hands down now. We'll hold our chi ball. So, if you don't know about our chi ball, you're almost, it's like you're holding a ball. It's an invisible ball between your palms. And if you close your eyes and you start maybe pulling your hands apart, letting them come back closer together, you might start feeling that there's something there. There's a push and a pull. Like, we have our own electromagnetic fields. And then let's bring the hands so the palms are facing up, and feel the space in your palms, right? As we're connecting to, versus connecting to the gravitational pull of the earth below and feeling what that feels like when our palms are down, turning them so they're facing up. And notice any sensations in the palms of your hands as we're connecting to this invisible energetic field above us. And then we'll go into a flow called piercing the veil. So we'll start with your right hand. So that we start with the palms facing up, and want to stretch that palm, that arm all the way forward. And as we do, spiral the hand in and then out. So the palm ends facing out. So your arm's in a spiral. And then you're going to reverse that. So spiral the hand back in. So your palms facing up as you draw your arm back in towards your waist. And now the left. So we exhale the hand forward. And as we do, start spiraling. So you're making a twisting motion from the shoulder all the way down to the fingertips. And then spiral the hand back up as you pull the arm in. So it's an exhale, forward spiral in and out. And then start inhaling as you spiral the hand back in, pulling the arm back in towards you. So exhale, spiral. And spiral, that action of spiraling, is reflective of nature. Nature operates in spirals, whether it's the DNA helix or it's how trees grow and roots. If we think of even crustaceans, crabs or snails, their shells are in this spiral. So we're just going with that type of spiral flow of life. And this is called piercing the veil. So if you can imagine that if our perception is limited to the material, right, we're not seeing the full spectrum or sensing the full spectrum of what's happening around us. So piercing the veil is piercing the notion that life is just what we can see and um, what we can feel. And as we are extending the arm forward, imagine that there's this cloud or veil that we're extending the arm through, piercing, piercing. And then as we inhale and draw your hand back in towards you, imagine that the opening that you've created by piercing, right? As we inhale and draw in, there's this golden light that starts to stream in and fill you up. So we exhale through that veil, and then we inhale and draw in this beautiful healing golden light right into the center of you. By the way, so keep the knees slightly bent, and it's an exhale forward, because if we inhale, we want to draw in. So think about the inhale is pulling in this golden light, and as we exhale, we're gently continuing to pierce that veil. Now, this time we're going to continue that, but we're going to turn slightly to the right. And as you do, extend the left arm forward over to the right, spiraling. And then inhale, spiraling back in. So it's the same motion. We're just turning slightly. So exhale the right arm over to the left. And then inhale slowly back to the center, right? Because we know that, right, we have the earth, the gravitational pull below us, and the universe is really in front of us, above us, below us, beside us. So we're just tapping into piercing the veil now over to the sides, inhaling and drawing in that golden light. Filling ourselves up. Once that veil is pierced, we're able to connect more with that 99.9% that's happening around us that's invisible to the human, should say that, the human eye. But just like gravity, electromagnetism, our own chi is invisible. The wind that brushes the trees is invisible. We're able to tap into that. And now we'll do one final movement of piercing the veil, and that's connecting upward. So palms still start facing up, but they're going to reach up. And as we do, spiral the hands in and then out. So the palms are facing the sides of the room. And then as we inhale, spiral the hands back in as we pull back down. So it's an exhale, spiral the hands in and then out, piercing the veil above us. And then as we inhale, think about these golden streams of light that are descending down and filling you up and surrounding you. And then let's do one more exhale. And then inhale to bring the arms now into a posture called embrace the tree. So you're making a big circle with your arms. Keep your shoulders nice and relaxed, your elbows and your wrists nice and relaxed. And just imagine all of the tendrils that you just created by piercing this invisible veil and pulling in all of these golden threads around us that we're now filling ourselves up. That light is contained and also surrounding you, just like a protective golden bubble. But that's constantly being fed by this connection to the space above us, beside us, below us. And then drop the arms down. And the last flow it's called crisscross flow. It's a great sort of to think about this protective field. And in Chinese medicine, it's actually called our Wei Qi, Weiqi. It's that portion of us that's more about boundaries, our immune system, but boundaries energetically too, with navigating the world and not taking in other energy that's not part of ours. And we'll start with crisscrossing. You can bend slightly, just keep the knees a little bent. You're going to crisscross the arms with the forearms, and then inhale, keeping the wrists crossed just in front of the heart center, and then separate the hands. So drawing the hands away from one another, and then palms face down as we exhale. And as you exhale, sink down. So you can bend the knees a little bit more, crisscross. As we inhale, you're going to straighten. So kind of get a little bit taller. Inhale, opening up the heart center. And then exhale down. Okay, so it's about benefiting that Wei Qi, the protective energy, but also keeping our heart center open. And by having really strong boundaries and a strong energetic Wei Qi field, that we can open up our hearts and not be subject to taking on energy that's not our own. Being able to have great deep connections and empathy, having loving relationships, right? Often the stronger our own center is, our own integrated set of boundaries allows for that to happen more freely. Inhale up to the heart center, continuing to inhale, and then exhale, sink down. Just a couple more. Inhale, rise up, and exhale, sink down. And then one more. This time, let's just keep the arms crossed for one moment. And again, imagine that golden light that we just tapped into that's surrounding us. Think about the golden light. Imagine it's completely surrounding you like a warm hug. And then inhale one last time. And then exhale all the way down. And then let's inhale the arms out to the sides all the way up. And then exhale slowly back down. And then inhale. And exhale. And one last time, inhale. Bring the feet together, let the hands float down. And then let's rest one hand below the abdomen, below the belly button, excuse me, and the other hand on top, back into the sea of chi. And let's pause here, just allowing everything to sink in, to create a resonance. I love analogies. Love a good metaphor or analogy. And with this is called bamboo in the wind. So it's about noticing the connection to the ground, creating really strong roots, a good foundation, and then having this flexibility above, bending and swaying as the wind shift, as life gives us all unexpected turbulence, right? Being able to navigate it with some grace. But I love a good analogy. And aside from that, and I love ending class with this because it is a way of letting everything sit or sink in, like baking. We bake a cake or cookies or something. Oftentimes it says like, let it sit for 10 minutes. It needs to settle in. And you did all this cooking and now it needs to give it a minute, let it rest, let it consolidate. And so I also think this should be called, we've just baking and now settling. And then when you're ready, you can crack your eyes open. Thank you, everyone. I hope you had a great class. I love piercing the veil.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so glad you joined me. Oh, by the way, thank you. Next week, I will be having class. I was going to try to do it, but I'm going to be at the Newport Folk Festival, and we get to the festival at like 9, so it's not going to work, unfortunately. So I will post this, and then if you don't already know, I put all of these onto my YouTube channel, so you can always go back, and I do a little bit of a description, so you can always kind of go back to ones that you or tag the ones that you liked. But I'll send that to the group also. So no class next week, but we'll resume the week after.
See you Monday.
Okay.
Have fun.
And I'll see you in person on Monday.
Okay.
All right. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.